Okay, so you're able to read it. Okay, fine. Yeah. So good afternoon and welcome to yet another online tutorial on microwaves and antennas. So we were discussing about the field due to a short electric dipole, right? So specifically, we were discussing about field due to a end-loaded short electric dipole. End-loaded in the sense we considered we had two capacitor plates or two metallic discs at the end, right? That is actually called what end-loaded or capacitive loaded. So can anyone tell me what was the advantage or of capacitive loading? I used to repeat that. I used to repeat that. Why? Because today we are going to study about radiation resistance. Right. So radiation resistance of the short dipole, it will be different if it is a capacitive loaded dipole and if it is not. Right. So both cases it is different. So that's why I'm asking this again. Right. So what were the advantages or what were the assumptions which we could make as the because the short dipole was end loaded? Anyone remember that? I used to repeat that, right? It was something which I used to repeat every time. So okay, it was first one was we can assume current distribution is uniform, right? First one was we can assume current distribution is uniform along the length, right? um, I expected some people at least will ask some question, how can current distribution be uniform? Why? Because if we have an open circuited line, right? If we have an open circuited line, I'll just draw here. If you have an open circuited line, so what we have seen is at the open circuited ends, right? At the open circuited ends, current should be zero and voltage should be actually what? Maximum, right? So when you have a short electric conductor opened up to be a radiator like this, right? If you don't use a metallic plates at the ends, or if you don't use capacitive loading, what happens is current at the end will be actually what? Zero. The current distribution would have been like this, right? Almost it would have been actually what? Linear, right? But if you use a capacitive loading, right? If you use discs, you can assume current distribution is actually what? Uniform everywhere. It is same everywhere. That is actually what key point which you have to keep in mind. So whatever field expression I have written here, it is for actually what? End loaded or capacitive loaded short electric dipole, right? So and in exam they used to ask a question, show that, right? So the question will be like, show that radiation resistance of an end-loaded short electric dipole is equal to AT pi square L by lambda the whole square. So this is what they'll ask, right? If it is end-loaded, this is a case. If it is not end-loaded, we'll try and derive what will happen, right? If it is not end-loaded, what will happen? Currents at the end will be zero, right? Not loaded, right? Not end-loaded or without capacitive plates, current will be zero at the extreme ends. Current is zero. So in that case, the current distribution is not uniform. Current is not same everywhere. Current distribution is almost linear, right? So we have seen actually while discussing about effective height, right? I have discussed about current distribution. Then I told, right, current distribution on thin linear antenna in detail we'll discuss in module 4, right? So we'll come to that. So the topic which we have to study today is actually what? Radiation resistance of short electric dipole. So we will derive or we'll prove radiation resistance of a short electric dipole of length L operating at a wavelength lambda can be written as AT pi square L by lambda the whole square. Can anyone tell me what is AT pi square, please? AT into pi square, 80 into 3.14 the whole square. What is that? Can anyone tell me? You can type it in chat window. You can use your calculator, calculate and do type it in chat window. What is 80 into 3.14 square? Please. 789. So can I take it 790? Approximately I'll take it 790. So the question also can be like RR is equal to 790 L by lambda the whole square, or L by lambda normally, right? L by lambda is actually what? How many wavelengths are there in this length L, right? So if L is 0.01 lambda, L by lambda will be 0.01. So at times L by lambda can also be written as actually what? L lambda, right? L lambda is actually what? length in terms of number of wavelength, right? Length in terms of number of wavelength. That can also be the question, right? So instead of 80 pi square L by lambda the whole square, right? It may be L lambda the whole square. So what are we are going to find out the radiation resistance of a short electric dipole in today's class. But before we move ahead and discuss that, I want everyone to be comfortable with what we have studied so far, right? I want you to be comfortable with the general field expressions. 1 second. I hope I'm audible. It's pouring out very heavily here, right? So yeah, so we need to discuss about general field expression, right, and the far field. So we have seen electric field has radial component ER and theta component E theta. The E phi component was 0. It was because of the symmetry, right? If you are placing the conductor along z axis, right, if you travel around it, the conductor will look the same, right, in any direction. If you travel around in a circle, right, keeping the distance constant, if you travel around, or speaking mathematically, you fix r and theta constant and change phi, so it will form a circle. So if you travel around, it will look the same from all sides. So because of that symmetry, right, the scalar potential function which we derived, it did not have any phi term, right? It was independent. When I say mathematically it did not have any phi term, it physically means it is independent of phi, right? If you change phi alone, nothing is going to happen to the electric field. The magnitude of electric field is going to be same, right? That is what is the meaning, right? So ER, right, we wrote. So, and one more thing, to make it compact, right, instead of writing I naught e power j omega t minus r by c everywhere, I'll write it as actually what retarded current, I in square bracket. So wherever I have written I in square bracket, please keep in mind it is actually what I naught e power j omega t minus r by c, right? That is actually, yeah. So ER is, it is proportional to I, right? I told you what actually is the physical significance of these expressions, right? It's proportional to I, L, and varies as cos theta and 2 pi by 2 pi epsilon naught. It has actually what r square and r cube term. It doesn't have any 1 by r term. So because of that, when we assume r is very large, this r 1 by r square and 1 by r cube term will vanish. So in far field, we don't have any radial component of electric field. So ER is 0 in far field. Right, that's why we are able to assume, right, in far field the electromagnetic radiation is transverse electromagnetic, which means the complete power is radiated radially outwards, and electric and magnetic field vectors are actually perpendicular to the direction of propagation. So it will have, electric field will have only theta component, magnetic field will have only phi component in far field, and power will be radiated radially outward. That's what is our assumptions. I discussed that when I discussed the near and far field zones of an antenna, right? But now I just want you people to like relate whatever result we are observing here. We derived it. This is not actually what, I didn't simply write this, right? Starting from basics, we derived it, and the result also actually what it's in compliance with what theory we have studied already, right? So I just want you people to appreciate that, right? So then E theta, again it is proportional to I, L. ER is proportional to actually what, cos theta. Radial field, right, it varies as a function of as cos theta, right? But theta or theta component actually what varies as sin theta, and here it is actually what, in ER it is 2 pi epsilon naught, but here it is actually what, 4 pi epsilon naught. And apart from this 1 by CR square and 1 by j omega r cube terms, we have a 1 by r term, j omega divided by c square r term in E theta. So because of that, when we take far field assumption, right, this 1 by c square r term or j omega by c square r will survive in this bracket. So the field expression, far field expression, can be written as j omega I L sin theta divided by 4 pi epsilon naught c square r, right? So if you use some assumption, epsilon naught c, it is equal to actually what, epsilon naught into 1 by root of mu naught epsilon naught, or this will be equal to actually what, 1 by epsilon naught, it will be equal to root of mu naught by epsilon naught, and this is equal to 120 pi. So if you substitute those assumptions right here, and if you write omega by c is equal to actually what? Omega by c is equal to, omega is actually what? 2 pi f, and c is f lambda. C is f lambda. So omega by c will be equal to 2 pi by lambda, right? It will be 2 pi by lambda. If you make those substitutions in this, I can write this far field expression as j times 60 pi I sine theta by r times L by lambda, right? So I can write like this also, right? So at times in exam, if they ask, show that it is equal to j 60 pi I sine theta. So then don't get confused. Like maybe this is not the expression which we obtained. So it can easily be actually what converted to this form, knowing epsilon naught c is equal to actually what? Epsilon naught c is characteristic intrinsic impedance of free space, that is root of mu naught by epsilon naught, and that is equal to 120 pi. So we are assuming the medium surrounding antenna is free space or vacuum or air, right? If it is any other medium, right? If it is any other medium, you have to be very clear, right? I'm writing 120 pi assuming the medium is free space. If it is any other medium, the value of intrinsic impedance will be root of mu by epsilon, right? Root of mu by epsilon, right? And velocity c, velocity of radiation will not be equal to 3 into 10 power 8. It will be 1 by root of mu epsilon, right? You have to keep that in mind. So that is one possible actually what deviation, right, which you can expect, right? Okay, fine. So now E theta is this. E theta can be expressed like this. I hope you are comfortable with that. And again, H phi is again proportional to I L. It's both E theta and H phi are actually what functions of sine theta, right? Then again by 4 pi. So H phi has actually what 1 by r term and 1 by r square term. J omega by CR term and j omega 1 by r square term. So in far field, this 1 by r term will survive. So this is the far field expression. So in far field, only H phi will be there, and not only in far field, even in near field. So it's obvious. Why? Because if you keep a conductor along z axis, right, magnetic field will actually what will form a loop around the conductor, right? Magnetic field will be forming a loop around the conductor. So magnetic field cannot have a z component, right, or say a rho component, right? It can have only phi component. Magnetic field can have only phi component. However, even if the conductor is short or long, right, it will have only phi component. So it's obvious. So all these results which we obtain, they make sense, right? So with these, do you have any doubt in this? Please feel free to ask. If you have any doubt, please ask, right? So are you comfortable with these field expressions, right? Are you okay? Like you know how to derive it, right? But deriving it is one part, but being able to interpret it, right? That is actually what another important aspect. So are you all okay with this? Any questions? Right, you have to be comfortable with this, and only I'll be able to discuss the radiation resistance part, right? Okay, and I asked you to see actually what Suresh VSR sir's video if you want more insights on this, right? So, but if you want to watch that, maybe right, it's. I'm not speaking in terms of actually what VTU exam perspective, but if you are preparing for GATE or any other PSUs, right? Especially in this exams like what Bell and all, they used to ask questions from actually what microwave, right? So for that, you can refer those videos, right? Discussing beyond this, it's actually what beyond the scope of our syllabus. So we are confining it, but the videos which I referred would be a wonderful resource, right? So okay, so with this, we'll move on and derive the radiation resistance of a short dipole antenna, right? So that's what I don't know whether we'll be able to complete it today, but anyhow, right? So we are going to derive the radiation resistance of a short radiation resistance of short dipole, right? So even in exam or when I refer short dipole, right, I will, unless otherwise specified, I am assuming it is end loaded, capacitive loaded short dipole, the current distribution is uniform along the length, right? So I'm not specifying it, right, but it's the end-loaded dipole. So what we have is, we have actually what we I have a source I naught e power j omega t exciting a short dipole, right? Exciting a short dipole, end-loaded short dipole, right? So the current distribution is uniform, right? I'm assuming this transmission line is not radiating, and even the end discs, circular discs are also not radiating. So we will have, right, in far field we'll have actually what, E theta and H phi components. So suppose it's radiating a total power of PT. If it is radiating a total power of PT, right? So this antenna I can represent using its equivalent electric circuit, right? We have discussed it, right? We have discussed it, the antenna using equivalent electric circuits, right? So I have my time harmonic, that is I naught e power j omega t, right? So it's a phasor representation, right? So I naught e power j omega t, it's a right, time harmonic, which means the peak value of the current is I naught, right? And the phase will actually what change as a function of time, right? It's a sine wave, right? Normally what we call sine wave, right? I naught e power j omega t, right? So then it's a rotating phasor, right? What I've written here, right? Then I can model this antenna, right? If I'm assuming the internal resistance of the source is 0 and this antenna again is lossless, I'm assuming, right? If a lossless antenna and internal resistance of this particular source is 0, so there is no drop, right? Whatever voltage, it is actually what directly delivered to this radiation resistance of this antenna. So I can equivalently represent this antenna like this: a source connected to a radiation resistance. So whatever power is dissipated across this radiation resistance, we can assume it is actually what, radiated, right? Normally, if it is a resistance, the I square R, right, power will be dissipated. That I, you have to keep in mind, that should be RMS value, right? So whenever we have power calculation, I should be RMS, right? RMS voltage or RMS current we'll take when we speak about actually what, net power, right? So you have to keep that in mind. So we have this peak value I naught and radiation resistance IR. So what will be power dissipated across this RR, or total power radiated? Total power radiated is actually power dissipated across this equivalent RR. Right? Total power radiated, I'll write PT, it is equal to I RMS square times RR. So what is I RMS square? So I know what is the peak value, right? I naught is the peak value. Right? If I naught is the peak value, you know I RMS is actually what, I naught by root 2. You already know that. So it is equal to I naught by root 2 the whole square times RR. So this is actually total power radiated. This is the total power radiated. Right? I'm calling it equation number 1. So here I have an RR. Right? Here I have an RR. Right? So we don't know what is this RR, and if somehow if I can, right, I know what is I naught, right? I know what is I naught. It's actually peak value of the excitation, right? Peak value of the source which excites the antenna, right? I naught I can find out, and somehow if I can find out this power, total power transmitted, from that I can find out the radiation resistance expression. That's what we are going to do, right? So is there any way, have we studied, whether we have studied any way to find the total power radiated by an antenna? We have studied that in last module, right? So so you can type it in chat window. Is there any way, total power radiated by an antenna, how can we find out? Yeah, integrating. What Sherwin? Yeah, what you told is correct. What do we need to integrate? So yeah, tell me, Sherwin.
Like a sphere, like entire sphere.
And yeah, so we have to integrate the power density, right? So power density is nothing but what, power per unit area. In fact, I should integrate the average power density over a closed sphere, right? In far field, if I integrate average power density over a closed sphere in far field, so power density is actually what, power per unit area. So if I'm keeping a closed sphere, I can capture the entire power. So if I'm integrating the power density over the surface of a closed sphere, that should definitely give me the total power radiated. But there is an assumption, right? There is an assumption, the radiative near field. There is the medium is actually lossless and radiative near field. So we are conveniently neglecting actually ER term in the far field. We are conveniently neglecting ER term in the far field, right? But that is negligible, right? We are assuming we have only E theta and H phi in far field. So the power theorem which we have studied, it is applicable only in far field, right? I told in far, I might have discussed there, right? In far field, if we integrate power density over a sphere. So now I would like to emphasize that it's applicable only in far field. So in far field, we have E theta and H phi. So what will be the point? So if I integrate the Poynting vector over a sphere, right? So if this is the antenna, I'll just try to represent it pictorially, right? So this is the antenna, and this is some say sphere, right, in far field, which is at a distance r. So, and here there will be some Poynting vector. S is actually what? Actual Poynting vector S is equal to E cross H. Actual Poynting vector S is equal to E cross vector H. And average Poynting vector, right? Average Poynting vector, I can write as actually what? Half times E theta times H phi conjugate, right? So it's magnitude of average Poynting vector. Not only this, actually, sorry, I should take real part of it. I missed the real part. So if I have to get average Poynting vector, what I should do is actual Poynting vector is actually what? Vector E cross H. But average Poynting vector, we have discussed this in last module. It is real part of half times E theta H phi. Why only E theta and H phi? Why? Because in far field only E theta and H phi components are there, right? So that is average Poynting vector. So now I will make a statement, right? The total power also can be found out by integrating the average Poynting vector over a sphere of radius r in far field, right? So I can write total power. It can also be found out by integrating. So it's a surface integral. Surface integral means it is theta from 0 to pi and phi from 0 to 2 pi. Theta from 0 to pi and phi from 0 to 2 pi. I should integrate S average or SR, anything, right? Maybe in your textbook they have used SR, right? But SR, why? What is the significance of that subscript R? Means power density. It is actually what? Along its power is flowing radially outward. The direction of power density vector is along AR cap, right? So I'm writing here S average, but need not have any confusion if it is SR or S average, right? S average times ds, where ds is actually the differential surface area over a sphere. So that is actually theta from 0 to pi, phi from 0 to 2 pi, S average times r square sine theta d theta d phi. You know how we got this, right? So over a sphere, r is a constant, theta and phi changes, right? A differential length along change in theta would be r d theta, right? Differential length along change in theta would be r d theta, and times differential length along change in phi would be r sine theta d phi. So product of these two, right? Product of these two is nothing but what? The differential surface area. You know that, right? But in case if you have a confusion, I'm repeating it. That's it, right? So this is what. So we can find out the power density like this also, right? So initially I got total, so not power density, total power. I got it to be equal to I naught square by 2 RR, right? I got I naught square by 2 RR. This is equation number 1, and this is equation number 2. I can find out in both ways, right? Now the question is what actually is this S average? So this S average, right, or SR or S average, it is equal to real part of half into E theta times H phi conjugate. So why I have written H phi conjugate? So E theta and H phi, even though E theta and H phi are magnitudes of vectors, I told they can be complex, right? They can be complex. So wherever it, right, when we are multiplying two complex numbers or two complex matrices, it's a, right, you might have seen, we'll take conjugate. So please don't forget that. So E theta comma H phi conjugate, right? E theta comma H phi conjugate, and we know, right, what was E theta by h phi. Yesterday, the last point which we discussed, right? What is E theta by h phi? We got it to be equal to eta or z, intrinsic impedance of free space, right? Intrinsic impedance of free space, or maybe I should not call free space, right? I'm not being specific about the medium, right? Medium can be anything. So E theta by h phi, it is equal to what? Root of mu by epsilon, right? E theta by h phi is equal to root of mu by epsilon. That will be intrinsic impedance of the medium, right? So I can write E theta as, so I can write, we know that E theta can be written as, eta times z, right? Eta times h phi. E theta can be written as eta times h phi, or instead of eta in your textbook they have used actually what, z. I think in electromagnetic waves, intrinsic impedance expression, you might, the notation you might have studied eta. So, and normally we'll write in standard, we represent intrinsic impedance as eta, but right, if you see z somewhere, don't get confused. So eta times h phi, so I can write it as actually root of mu by epsilon times h phi, right? So this is equation number 3, this is equation number 4. If I substitute 4 in equation number 3, what I'll get? I'll get SR or S average is equal to, right, real part of half into, right, E theta is nothing but what? Root of mu by, or instead of root of mu by epsilon, I'll write z, right? I'll write z, right? I'll be writing it as z, okay? So this is z, right? Half into z times, it's not h theta, it should have been h phi, sorry, h phi times h phi conjugate. So this is SR, right? Half z times h phi times h phi conjugate. So suppose you have a complex number R is equal to a plus ib, right? R is equal to a plus ib, right? So what is R into R conjugate? What is R into R conjugate? That will be a plus ib into a minus ib. It is actually what? A square plus b square, right? A square plus, it should have been a square minus actually what? IB the whole square. So, but I square is minus 1. So it will be a square plus b square. This will be equal to actually what? Mod of R the whole square, right? So nothing, if you multiply a complex number with its conjugate, you will get square of its magnitude, right? You already know that. So I can write, so this h phi into h phi conjugate, I can write as mod of h phi the whole square. So that will be a real quantity, right? Magnitude of a complex number has to be a real quantity. So I can take it out of this, right? So I can write this is equal to half mod of h phi square times real part of z, where z is nothing but what? Root of mu by epsilon, right? So if it is any other medium, if it is actually what? An imperfect conductor or imperfect dielectric, this epsilon will be actually what? Complex, right? This epsilon will be complex. You might have studied that, Low's tangent and all those things, right? If it is any other medium other than a perfect dielectric, this epsilon will be complex. So this root of mu by epsilon will also be complex. Then you will have to find out that and take the real part. But now from this point, I will actually what? Specialize it into it for air, right? If the medium is air, or free space, for free space or air, sorry, for free space, right? Z is real, right? Z is real, that is root of mu naught by epsilon naught. I'll write it as mu naught by epsilon naught, that is equal to 120 by, I'm not substituting it now, maybe I'm keeping it for later, right? I'm keeping it for later. So first we will obtain the general expression, that's right. So if it is not free space, right, if it is any other medium, you should be able to solve that. That's why I'm writing the general expression now. Please keep that in mind. So SR will be equal to half root of mu naught by epsilon naught times mod of h phi the whole square. So this is SR. So I'm calling it equation number 5. So I have SR now, right? I have SR now, and I have everything what I need. So again, I can find out what is the total power radiated, right? So total power radiated, PT is equal to integral theta from 0 to pi, pi from 0 to 2 pi, integral theta from 0 to pi, pi from 0 to 2 pi, half root of mu by epsilon naught mod h phi the whole square times r square sine theta d theta d phi, right? So but what is this mode of h phi? Can anyone tell me what is mode of h phi? Yesterday we have done that, right? We found out what is mode of h phi. What is mode of h phi, right? Or else I'll just, we have this here, right? So h phi is in far field h phi is j omega I naught e power j omega t minus r by c L sine theta by 4 pi cr. This j I told, right? This j, it simply means a plus 90 degree phase shift, right? Plus 90 degree phase shift with respect to reference, right? That is the j. So when I consider mode of h phi, I don't have to consider that j. And similarly in this I have actually what? E power j something. E power j, whatever it comes, that again actually contributes to phase, right? So from this square bracket I have to consider only I naught. So I will write here mode of h phi. I'll write here mode of h phi. Yesterday again we have written mode of h phi is equal to omega I naught L sine theta, omega I naught L sine theta divided by 4 pi CR. This is very, 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 very important. I would say you should remember this, right? Oh, it's like, it simply means magnetic field is proportional to omega I naught L and it's varying as sine theta and by 4 pi CR. It is actually what proportional to 1 by R, right? And one more thing which I want you to remember is omega by C. Omega by C can be written as actually what? Beta. Omega by C can be written as beta. I told you how it is. Omega is 2 pi f and C is f lambda. So f and f will get cancelled. So it is equal to 2 pi by lambda. So omega by C can be written as 2 pi by lambda. And you know 2 pi by lambda is phase constant as far as wave propagation is concerned, right? 2 pi by lambda is phase constant. So omega by C can be written as, so in here there is an omega by C. I can rewrite it as actually what? Beta I naught L sine theta divided by 4 pi r. So I can write it like this as well. But right. So for instance, I'll substitute this itself, right? So omega I naught L sine theta divided by 4 pi cr. Please remember this, right? So h phi is omega I naught L sine theta divided by 4 pi CR, or if you write omega by C equal to beta, if you write omega by C equal to beta, that is beta I naught L sine theta divided by 4 pi R, right? So if you see here, this beta is a constant, 2 pi by lambda. As far as lambda is known and constant, beta is independent of theta and phi, I naught is a constant, L is a constant, 4 pi is a constant. So when I substitute that here, right? When I substitute those things in equation, this PT equation, so PT will be equal to, right? So again, this half I can take out, right? Mu naught by epsilon naught again I can take out, right? And if you want R also, R square also I can take out. R square, right? R is independent of theta and phi. So what this R is actually radius of the sphere which we are considering, right? Over the sphere, theta and phi are changing. R is a constant, or R is independent of theta and phi. So that R square also I can take outside. That R square also can be taken outside. So I'm writing it. Please listen very carefully. It is half root of mu naught by epsilon naught. Root of mu naught by epsilon naught. Right. R square times integral, double integral. I'm not writing the limits. Right. H phi the whole square will be beta I naught L sine theta the whole square divided by 4 pi r the whole. So it will be beta square I naught square L square sine square theta divided by 16 pi square r square. 16 pi square r square. So this r square is there. I can take this r square outside. So r square and r square will get cancelled later on. Times sine theta d theta d phi times sine theta d theta d phi. So I think I should write the limits, right? Theta from 0 to pi and phi from 0 to 2 pi. Theta from 0 to pi, pi from 0 to 2 pi, right? So now again, this beta is a constant, I know it is a constant. All the constants I can take out, and this r square and this r square will get cancelled, right? And if I take other constants out, so it is half root of mu naught by epsilon naught, half root of mu naught by epsilon naught, right? Then beta square, right? So one very important thing is I'm assuming now I naught is a constant, right? This I is a constant. How can I assume that? I'm assuming I is a constant only because of this capacitive loading. Right? That's why I want you people to be aware of that, right? It's not simply deriving, so not just assuming. It's possible only because of actually capacitive loading. If it's not capacitive loading, the current distribution along the length would have been actually what? Linear, right? If it is very small, right? If it is a long conductor, it would have been sinusoid, right? If it is a very small length, right, we could have assumed it as a linear or whatever, right? So in that case, whatever I'm going to do now won't work, right? I know won't be a constant, right? So we will see. Then beta square, I naught square, L square divided by 16 pi square divided by 16 pi square, integral theta from 0 to pi and phi from 0 to 2 pi sine square theta times sine theta. So it will be sine cube theta d theta d phi. So we have, while finding the directivity and all those stuffs, we have evaluated this integral many times, right? We have evaluated this. If you can use either you can use calculator, right? Either you can use calculator, or you can use actually what? Integration by parts, right? You substitute, right? You can write it as sine square theta into sine theta. We have seen that. I'm not discussing that again. So if you calculate that integral will be equal to, right? That integral will be equal to 8 pi by say 3, right? This integral will be equal to 8 pi by 3. Integral sine cube theta d phi. The integral d phi will be actually what? 2 pi, right? Integral d phi will be 2 pi, right? And integral sine cube theta d theta, it will be 4 by some, yeah, remaining, right? So 2 pi into, so yeah, you can, I'm leaving it to you. So but it will be 8 pi by 3, right? It's not 8 pi by 2, it should be 8 pi by 3, right? 8 pi by 3. So it will be 2 pi, and this integral will be 4 pi by 3, right? Integral sine cube theta d theta will be 4 by 3, right? It will be 4 by 3, fine. So that is 8 pi by 3. So if you substitute that, half root of mu naught by epsilon naught beta square I naught square L square divided by 16 pi square times 8 pi by 3 times 8 pi by 3. So what is that we are getting if we substitute that? Please tell me what we'll get. We'll get it to be equal to, just you can rearrange later. It will be root of mu by epsilon, right? Then we have a beta square. Then we will have an I naught square L square divided by 12 pi. So this is total power radiated. So we can call it equation number 6. So now you equate 1 and 6. You have to equate 1 and 6. One says, I'll wind it up very fast, right? One says I naught square RR by 2, that is the total power, that is equal to root of mu naught by epsilon naught, beta square I naught square L square divided by 12 pi. So what happens is 2 and this 12. So it will be 6, and I naught square and I naught square will get cancelled. Right. So this RR will be equal to, you can write RR is equal to radiation resistance. RR is equal to root of mu naught by epsilon naught beta square by 6, beta square by 6 times L square. So this beta I can write as like beta is nothing but 2 pi by lambda, right? Beta is nothing but 2 pi by lambda, and root of mu naught by epsilon naught, root of mu naught by epsilon naught, it is equal to actually what? 120 pi. If you substitute those things in this equation, right? If we substitute those things in the equation, what is that you will get is, it is equal to 80 pi square L by lambda the whole square, this much ohm, right? 80 pi square L by lambda the whole square. Suppose the short dipole is of length 0.01 lambda, right? L by lambda will be 0.01, and can anyone tell me what will be this value? 793. So right, into 0.01 square. So RR, the 80 pi square can also be written as actually what? 793. 793 was it? What was, someone typed that in chat window earlier. It is 790. Sorry, 790. Right. So it is 790 L by lambda the whole square. So if L is equal to 0.01 lambda, what is the case? If L is equal to 0.1 lambda, what is the radiation resistance? Can you please find out? If L is equal to 0.01 lambda, L by lambda will be 0.01. So please do find out this, right? So maybe I'll just wind up here. So what we have done, it was very simple. If you know what is power theorem, right, and you know how to equivalently represent an antenna using a circuit, right, then we didn't study anything new, right? We just used something which we already knew, and we just did put them together, and we got the expression for radiation resistance. This is again very, very important. Hardly there was any question paper without, right, this question. Almost all university question papers used to have this question, right? Almost all university question paper, right? Okay, yeah, that's it. Maybe we'll wind up today's session here, right? Or if you have any doubt, you can stay back and ask. Otherwise, you can leave. Not a problem, right? We'll wind up. Right. Thank you.